Hey everyone, and welcome to Crazy Amazing Humans podcast, where we highlight everyday humans doing crazy amazing things, people just like you and me who utilize their time, talent, and resources to give back, pay it forward, and make a difference. I'm Katrina Carlson.
And my name is Jefferson Denham. On today's episode, we want to invite you to explore with us the science that demonstrates how acts of kindness are not only a cool thing to do, it's also good for your health.
Indeed. And I love that. We're going to be speaking with a longtime Scoutmaster, Mr. Mike Lanning, who has been the Scoutmaster of Troop 223. But wait, he's there in the Pacific Palisades in California. He's been there since 1953, and you think, oh, Scouts, what? Who cares?
Wait.
Right. No.
Since 1953?
Yes, he's been there a long time.
That is some commitment, my friend.
So he has eagled over 800 Scouts.
Wow.
So that means they've achieved the rank of Eagle Scout, which is the highest rank you can get in Scouts, and you'll hear some very interesting news about Scouts.
And as always, we want to make sure that we stay connected with you. So don't forget to write us at crazyamazinghumans@gmail.com to let us know your thoughts and comments. We'd also love to know about any crazy amazing humans that you are aware of that you find inspirational.
We want to make sure that we're always giving you the most uplifting and inspiring stories and practical information. We are on a mission to inspire you and remind you that you are crazy amazing.
I want you to feel, I want you to feel something crazy, crazy amazing.
Hey everybody, it's the week of July 4th, 2020.
July 4th, 2020.
Yes.
2020, the year that never ended.
Yeah.
It just keeps going on and on.
Yeah, it's a bit bumpy year. But you know, there's all these funny like social media memes and stuff. I don't know. I have a group text where people are always, sending I got one the other day that was from the Back to the Future movie, and it was Doc and Michael J. Fox, his character, and they're like, "Whatever you do, don't turn it back to 2020."
Right. You can drive your DeLorean, but don't set it to 2020, please.
Please, no, because we've been through a lot, but we can endure this, and we can learn from this, and that's what we're going to do, and we're going to move forward, right?
These are hard lessons that we're learning, but I'll tell you what, hard lessons sometimes, those are the ones that stick with you.
Yes.
And another thing that we were talking about too is that this whole moment, this whole year has caught our attention. Mm-hmm. I think that there were things under the radar or maybe hiding in plain sight. Issues. Long-standing issues that needed to be addressed, and now it's caught our attention, and we are addressing it.
And we have to, because mistakes can happen, right? And it's the problem is if we don't learn from them,
right?
But when we do, we rise, right?
Well,
that's what America does.
No, say this is the week of July 4th, so we're celebrating the birthday of our country.
Yeah.
And we know our country hasn't been perfect.
No.
We know that, and that's
Absolutely
being
not.
human, right?
Yeah.
But the ideals were established. And we've been aspiring.
Absolutely.
We're constantly arriving.
Right.
This is not something we have attained. We're arriving at it constantly.
Because it's a relationship that we have with our own country and with each other, as our country is made up of humans. It's humanity, and we make mistakes. Right. But we every day have to show up and make and figure out what's going on. How can we make this relationship better? How can we progress and go forward,
right?
And pay attention to what's happening around us,
right? We have to intentionally be engaged with this relationship of democracy. Democracy is messy, right?
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but it's on us. Another thing that this year has reminded us, we were talking about, is our responsibility as citizens. You can't be in cruise control, like you're saying. We're in a relationship with democracy.
Right? No,
well, didn't Martin Luther King say something about the...
Martin Luther King has an amazing quote where he says, "Let us realize the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." That's great.
Amen. And that just tells me, again, that it's a long term. We're in a marathon, not a sprint, people say. But that's what democracy is. We have to make a long term commitment to it to make it. It is only what we make it.
Yes.
Democracy is only what we make it. And it's taking care of you. It's taking care of me. I mean, that's what I'm seeing about being an American now, celebrating the 4th of July.
Yes, and we're here with our guitars right now in case you can't see them. And we're here because we want to sing a patriotic song for you all. And we're going to sing America the Beautiful, which I really like. And not only because it's a beautiful song, but also because it's written by a man and a woman, which is nice.
Right.
And the man is Samuel Ward, who wrote the melody. And the beautiful words are by Catherine Lee Bates. So let's celebrate America, not blindly, but with the love that we have and the gratefulness that we live in this country.
Amen.
do belong, and we embrace the spirit and the ideals of this country. And in doing so, let's embrace kindness. That's our next segment.
Part 1, being kind. It's cheaper than a facelift.
So here's what we always say at the close of Crazy Amazing Humans podcast. We say, remember that every little kindness has the potential to create crazy amazing human experiences one person at a time.
Right. And then we say, this week, we want to encourage you to find one thing that you can do to extend kindness and love in the world.
Well, not only are these good things good to do as people wanting to make the world a better place, be good people, it's also scientifically proven to be good for you.
How about that? A win-win.
Yes.
So we found this great article from the website bigthink.com. The article was called, Our Bodies Are Chronically in Threat Mode, and Being Kind Recalibrates Our Nervous System. It was written by Jamie Bell. It was published on January 22nd, 2020.
Very nice. So basically, according to this article, we all know that kindness is a virtue. It's to be admired and applauded. But did you know that it can be good for your health?
I love this part. Yes, go ahead.
In fact, being compassionate to others can actually reset our consistently stressed systems back into our default rest mode, causing all kinds of positive effects to our overall health. So,
but don't we always feel that way? Like when you do good,
it makes you feel
good.
You
feel good.
Right.
But now there's science that says, guess what? You know why you feel good? This.
Yeah. So according to Dr. James Doty, Stanford professor and author of Into the Magic Shop, a neurosurgeon's quest to discover the mysteries of the brain and secrets of the heart, the nervous system doesn't function optimally if it's in threat mode all the time.
Yeah. That makes
so,
sense.
And we have these stressful life cycles operating mainly in threat mode, which can be one of the reasons why we're always contracting. Well, we can contract a variety of different illnesses.
Because our immune system gets weakened when we just push ourselves. Think about, okay, lovely audience. Put your hands up. I can't see you. If you're driving, don't. But but think about do you get up in the morning and run? I do.
Oh my gosh,
I'm guilty of this.
Going.
There's so many things to be, as parents. Yeah. And I'm sure there's parents in our audience. And so there's always something that needs doing right away, right?
Yes.
And so what this article is reminding us of is, so we'll get to the part where doing good releases all this great stuff in us. But just from the get-go, let's just say a good point is to calm the heck down. I mean, the world is stressful enough.
Yes, it is. And basically when we're in that stress mode, our bodies release inflammatory proteins in response to that stress, and it decreases the capabilities of our immune system. So it's just literally lowers so stress lowers your immune system. I think a lot of us know that.
Yeah.
We know, don't be stressed, it's bad for you, you get sick.
We may know it, but do we act on it? That's probably
I know. But just to kind of understand the whole mechanism, the constant overstimulation of our nervous systems caused by our environment it also makes us more inclined to jump into often judgmental conclusions about other people. So, we're thinking bad things about other people as well, right?
So next time I'm cranky with my wife, she'll say, reread that article. Will you please?
So that kind of judgment dulls our own ability to act out of compassion for others. And when we lack compassion, we're operating in a constant threat mode.
Right.
That's really, you got to think about that. So just think that you're just not having compassion for people is going to make you have this negative long-term effect of having a constant threat mode going.
Yeah,
so you're basically hurting yourself.
So true. And I love what Dr. Doty, this is a quote from the article, when someone acts with compassionate intentions, this has a huge positive effect on their physiology. It takes them out of threat mode, puts them into the rest and digest mode.
Okay.
What happens when that occurs is that it changes how they respond to events. Now, we were talking before the taping about how digest, your innards, your gut, right? A thing that totally has an effect on how we think, how we behave.
Well, everyone says, a lot of your immune system starts in your gut. There's something like 80% of your immune system starts in your gut.
Wow.
So when you feel and act out of compassion for others, you can reset yourself into rest mode. So you reset, and it starts with your nervous system. So kindness and compassion, acting with kindness and compassion, it resets us into rest mode. And that is something that will definitely have positive health benefits, both mental and physical.
And, I read this article, too, about depression. I struggle from depression. I'm always looking for ways to kind of get better at dealing with it. And there was this great article saying you want to kind of be proactive in dealing with your depression, do something kind for someone else.
Right.
It takes you out of the mindset of like, oh, I'm worried about everything that's going wrong. And I can actually, and maybe that's part of this reset idea too, is wow, if I look at a way that I can extend kindness to anyone who needs it, I don't have time to be depressed.
Right. And just like people will talk about meditation and meditating on gratitude or kindness and good things, that is going to reset you into this rest and digest mode.
Right.
Again, your digestion, all of that that's going on in your gut is a real indication of what's going on in your mind, what's going on in your body, your whole physical health. So I love that he says rest and digest mode, because people have, when you have stomach issues and you're not feeling well and, those kind of things, it's just, that is such a natural, intuitive, we know we're intuitively in a bad place when our stomach hurts.
Do you think that's also like the whole idea of ulcers? And
yes, that is absolutely, stress is causing those things, right? That's one of the things. I'm sure those people have a susceptibility and everything. I'm not a doctor, everybody. I'm not clinically. But we're able to change the responses we have to events because we're allowing the executive control area of control in our brain to function at the highest level when we're in rest and digest mode. That's when we function the highest in rest and digest mode.
And we think, boy, again, getting back to the idea of just being so crazy busy all day long, we think I just got to power through, recognizing that if you take the time to rest, meditate, some of the things we're talking about, you actually function on a much higher level.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever gotten a great idea when you're just about to fall asleep?
Yeah.
I love that,
Because you're relaxing.
Yeah. In addition, regular compassionate acts or compassion-based meditation practices can reduce negative neuroendocrine interactions in our brains, which are the interactions between our nervous system and the endocrine system.
Okay.
So studies at Emory University have supported and proved that idea. So do you want to talk about that? Like the switching to parasympathetic nervous system?
Parasympathetic nervous system, which we instinctively do when we act out of compassion. Our heart rate variability increases, which causes a boost in our immune system. This immune system boost can help us fight off infections or illnesses. Well, that's exactly what we're talking about.
So it works both ways.
Yeah.
So research by Dr. Doty has shown that one of the long-term positive effects of living in our parasympathetic nervous system or in resting mode is that our telomeres actually increase in length.
I love learning new words, by the way. This telomere, that's not like Teletubbies or anything. It's telomeres.
Telomeres.
Telomeres,
Have you heard of
yes.
those?
No.
This is your first time hearing
What's
about
a telomere?
Okay, well, you ask what a telomere is.
Yes,
okay,
I do.
It is, so the best way to understand them, and it's explained in this article, and I really like the way they explain this, is to imagine small caps that protect the ends of chromosomes during cell division. Okay? So these caps, these telomeres, get shorter each time a chromosome copies itself during cell division, which happens constantly. So eventually these telomeres get too short and can no longer protect the genetic information stored in the chromosomes.
So it wears out. It's like it just wears down,
Yeah, it wears down. And then basically the cells stop replicating, and that is a process known as cell death.
That doesn't sound good.
No.
That sounds bad.
Yeah, it does. So telomeres are sort of an aging clock in every cell we have. And the faster your telomeres shorten, the more advanced the aging process becomes.
Yikes.
Yes. So in theory, considering the effect of telomeres, over time, being kind and compassionate can actually slow down the aging process. It slows down the shortening of telomeres.
Hey, if you don't want that surgery, that facelift, calm the heck down. And you'll get it for free. And do this too. And get some tape. And,
And as I say, like stress causes like illness.
You to age faster.
It causes you to age faster. And then there's just the whole like reciprocal effect of that. So
right, I love this.
Research by Stony Brook University professor Stephanie Brown has proven that experiencing compassion, someone's being nice to you, okay, someone's being compassionate, somebody forgives you, can lead to tremendous improvements in our mental and physical well-being as well. Because just as showing compassion can recalibrate our nervous systems out of threat mode and back into resting mode, experiencing compassion or kindness from others also has a positive impact on our health.
So give someone else a kindness facelift. Yes. Share it with everybody. I'm telling you, man. So it's like be kind because it's just good for you. So
it's good for you.
The article mentions let's set off a chain reaction. Yeah. All right. If you're driving, sitting, whatever you're doing, today, let's set off a chain reaction of positivity and goodness.
Yes.
Because the benefits, it's not just you personally. impacts your whole community.
It reverberates throughout the community for sure. And that's what we're trying to do here at Crazy Amazing Humans.
Exactly.
We're resetting our own systems into resting mode by taking ourselves out of threat mode so we can process things more clearly, make better choices, and live in a place that's better for our health and well-being as well as others.
Right. So the article reminds us that in a world where you can be pretty much anything, think about it, we can make a decision right now to be pretty much anything, right? It's all in our attitude. So if we can do that, why not be kind?
Why not?
It's good for your health.
Let's do it. Part 2. On my honor, I will do my best. So we want to welcome Mr. Mike Lanning. He is the Scoutmaster of Troop 223 since 1953 in Pacific Palisades, California. It's such an honor and privilege to have you here today, Mike. Thank you so much for being here at Crazy Amazing Humans. And for our audience, I wanted to let everyone know that Mike has received numerous scouting awards, including Distinguished Eagle and Regional Council and District Awards of Merit, Scoutmaster of the Year, and the Americanism Award honoree. Past awardees have included Gerald Ford and Bob Hope. That's really nice company. Wow. And you are about to receive an award on behalf of the National Council for yours and the troop's support of Hispanic scouting in the council.
And when not on some crazy scouting adventure, Mike actually created a professional career in his spare time, beginning in the early 60s in real estate development. And then you became a founding partner in the law firm of Lanning and Peterson. Quite an underachiever, aren't you, Mike?
Well, first, it's great to be here. It's great to be with you. And, I've always said to some of the scouts that ask, if you do something long enough, I guess you set a few records and get a few awards.
So Mike, welcome. And you were born in Indio, California.
Yes,
and
down in Coachella before the festival.
You were
probably,
cool before.
Well, Coachella, sick. You went over to Indio to find a hospital with a couple of beds.
Nice.
Oh, really? Wow.
Okay, that's interesting. And Riverside, and I bet like most California things, things have changed quite a bit, right, since back then?
Oh, sure. Riverside. Well, we went up to San Bernardino, moved over to Riverside. My dad worked for the Union Oil Company, and when they moved him, we moved. Got to Riverside when I was 3.5 and stayed there until 20 when I went off to UCLA. But it was a lot different. I think Riverside's up around 400,000. We had 28,000 residents.
Wow.
Small
it was really
town.
cool. You could ride your bike everywhere. Because you could ride your bike everywhere, it was the beginning, I think, of kind of the difference my parents made in my life. Number one, you were independent. Number two, there was a war on, World War II. I was 9 years old on December 7th, 1941, and Dad worked from 6 in the morning till midnight. My mom went back to work as a nurse, so by the time I got home in the afternoon, there was nobody there until midnight. And so you were independent. You learned how to take care of yourself, and you were expected to be responsible. Along with that independence privilege came responsibility. And so I kind of grew up that way, and I guess I wanted to pass that on to other kids. Maybe that's part of my being a Scoutmaster.
You are an Eagle.
I became an Eagle Scout in Troop 15 in Riverside, and that's another story of why I guess I'm a Scoutmaster. A little boy came to Riverside in kindergarten, and in those days, anti-Semitism was very out in the open and the regular thing. And David was Jewish, and the other kids in the kindergarten were picking on him, and I don't know if I knew about the Jewish thing, but I didn't like him being picked on. So I said, well, that's enough of that. I was kind of a leader of the little boys in the class, so it stopped. Before my dad died, 50 years later, he told me the story of David's dad coming over to the house and saying how much he appreciated that, and that if I ever needed anything, he was there for me. And he was. So when we became Scouts, because of David's dad, Irving T. Olson was there for me the rest of my life, including investing money in real estate ventures and making sure we became Eagle Scouts. It takes a little support. Wow. And so that's why I'm an Eagle Scout, because of Irving T. Olson. And I guess maybe because I helped another little kid. Just because, again, once more, my parents told me to do things like that.
Right.
So you would say obviously that your parents were role models and you found other role models, which is probably why you want to be a role model yourself. Would you say that's true?
Definitely, and I'll tell you how I can maybe prove that. I'd been a Scoutmaster down here a couple of years and over in Pacific Palisades, and there's a privilege there. There's, in most families, there's maybe a little more resources. And however, I just couldn't help comparing some of the parenting I saw to my own folks. And I did have a chance before my mother passed away to go home and say to her, Mom, I've done the comparison and you're the best. And
Wow.
And she really was. She was there for me. And they were both there for me, even when they were busy and challenged and doing so many things for other people.
You eagled at 15, is that right?
That's correct. But we joined at 12. And it was only recently, in some occasion, I don't know why, I was talking about how long it took to become an Eagle, and I looked at my resume, and I became an Eagle in 3.5 years. The Scouts in our troop are 4.5 years. The national average is 6 years.
Wow.
And I didn't realize that we were doing it that quickly. But I look back and kind of remember Irving T. Olson's words about, did you call that merit badge counselor? Did you remember to do that part of a merit badge? And we did it together, David and I and a couple other fellows. And so, you kind of push each other.
Tell us a little bit about scouting.
Well, I think it's the best place to start in talking about any organization is what's its vision, and then perhaps a little bit about its mission. Mission being the steps you take to realize a vision. So like John F. Kennedy says, we're going to put a man on the moon in this decade. Well, by golly, that's a picture of success. Martin Luther King says, I have a dream. Well, that's a picture of success. So a picture of success in scouting and in our troop is young people leading skillfully, making good choices, serving others. Now just think about it a second. If you're raising a kid and you want him to be successful, a girl or a boy, would that sound pretty good?
Yeah.
Of course, I have another little expression for all these folks that are wondering whether they ought to put their kid in sports or scouts or which. I sort of say to them, well, who better to raise your grandchildren than an Eagle Scout?
Yeah.
So based on leading skillfully, making good choices, serving others, the whole trick in scouting, different from almost any other organization I know about, is the scouts, boys and girls, lead the other scouts. And by lead, we mean they run everything. They also help plan everything. So when a meeting starts, there's a flag salute. Kids are carrying the flag, another kid is giving the little commands. When they go off to earn a merit badge, study something, learn something, an older scout is standing up, instructing younger scouts. It's kids leading kids, and that's a huge difference. So we're a practice field, but we have formal training. When we do leadership, it's all about youth leaders. All the adults we have, our troop has 140 boys and 100 assistant scoutmasters, but it's the boys that run it. Same with the girls. The girls now have 50 girls, and we have about 60 assistant scoutmasters because moms and dads want to come. But all of it, again, is about the kids leading other kids.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So just because you just brought up the girls in scouting now, can you just tell our audience a little bit, tell us a little bit about how the Boy Scouts of America decided to now allow girls to be in the Scouts, and even some are going to get their Eagle merit, right, to Eagle rank.
The scouting was formed on the Baden-Powell model of men who were in the military, as I said, and then he wanted to create a leadership and an outdoors organization for young people, and he thought of men, so he thought of boys. The Girl Scouts came a little later. Incidentally, I've had a chance to meet Lady Robert Baden-Powell, who was the founder of the Girl Scouts in England and Girl Scouts here. So we ended up with boys, and it became a club, an institution. Men served in it for years and years. It was their hobby. And it was kind of the good old boys getting together on Tuesday night, say, and then weekends and summer camps. And so women just didn't get involved for many years. Well, after many lawsuits, probably now 30, 40 years ago, why women were allowed to join scouting at any level. And it's been wonderful. They've made great scoutmasters where men were not available or whether they were or not. They made great board members, great merit badge counselors. They've done a great job helping in scouting as well as men have or better.
You may, Mike, my history, but my history in scouting has been, my mom was a Girl Scout leader of my troop. When I was a little girl, I was in Girl Scouts. Then my eldest daughter wanted to be in Girl Scouts. So then I became a leader and founded a troop for our school, Brentwood School here in Los Angeles. And her friends were we did that at the school for a few years until the girls sort of lost interest, and we didn't have, it was just, we were a bit of an island, but we did it. I had another mom with me, and we led that troop. And then our son learned about Troop 223 and joined your troop, Xander Carlson. Mm-hmm. And he went through all the years, the 4.5, 5 years it took him to become an Eagle. We were there through that. And then when we got an email from Troop 223 that girls could join, and I asked Ruby without a beat, our daughter Ruby Rose said, I definitely want to join the Boy Scouts. I want to be an Eagle someday. And so now she's been part of the troop as of last year in February 1st. And it's been a phenomenal experience for us as a family to go on the campouts or just to be part of everything. And now Xander and Ruby have a really special connection and can relate to each other in ways that they never could before.
Okay. Because you are a leader who likes to lead by example, I have a little prop here for you. Now, if you're watching this on video, you'll see that I just handed, and if you're listening, I'm telling you what's happening. I just handed, no, don't. I'm going to put you to the test, sir. So he's got a rope. And we all know that Boy Scouts can tie some knots. So I'm just going to call out a knot. Let's watch you take care of business because you're an expert. Ready? Here we go. Square knot.
Nice.
No, wait. It's not good enough for him. He's got to do it again.
Well, it has to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know what, Kat? You are a Scoutmaster.
Yes. Okay.
Let's see you do the square knot.
Square knot.
Well,
I did have to learn it.
I know.
Have you had time yet to pass out? There, you got it.
There we go.
Okay, you know what, Mike? I'm going to say.
See if it's right. Push it.
Hers looks prettier. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Take it. Well, she's got a different rope.
We're blaming it on the rope.
No, this is the right square knot. I'm pretty sure this is right. I did it. I made the square knot.
One guy's blame is another person's
I
explanation.
see. Okay, so here we go. Ready? Let's see this next one. And Kat, you don't have to do this one.
Oh, please.
All right, here we go. Clove Hitch.
I did learn that.
By the way, I looked these up. It's not like I know these things.
Like
I just sound very smart right
and then
now.
It makes like a
Clove Hitch.
And then it goes through.
So the Clove Hitch is the thing that you didn't pay any attention, but when John Wayne rode his horse up to the bar, he tied his horse with a clove hitch.
All right.
That's so good.
That is
just for
awesome.
our audience, like Mr. Mike Lanning had no idea we were going to ask.
I guess it was called a saloon. Oh, I've been tying knots.
So that's now you had moved to you said you moved to the Palisades in 1952. Yes.
Yes.
Because that's when I'm also a Bruin, by the way. Go Bruins. So what I want to ask you is, you started. Kat and I were looking at this story, and so we were just struck by this. You started college in 1952. In 1953, so you're still at UCLA. You became a Scoutmaster. You didn't have enough to do?
Well, if you apply yourself in college, come on. It's not that tough.
Okay. I just thought that was impressive.
Well, I was kind of gifted and lucky with a pretty good IQ, and I also, because of Scouts, as much as anything, and incredible teachers in high school and in community college in Riverside. I had a good study habit, and so I was kind of done by 5 or 6 o'clock. But I'll tell you how I got in scouting. So we're shopping at the old Mayfair Market, the predecessor of the present Gelson's. And the way we did it was there were 4 of us, and each one of us took one day and cooked the breakfast, made the lunches for everybody, and cooked dinner. And you did the shopping the night before, and we just split it up that way. And we were in Gelson's, and there were 2 kids in Scout uniform buying candy. And we'd been talking about the fact that, we were assistant Scoutmasters in Riverside in our old troop right up to the day we left. And I'd taken kids to summer camp the summer before I went to UCLA. So we'd missed scouting. And Bob Schwartzel and I, my assistant patrol leader, assistant scoutmaster for years, one of my very best friends was with me as in this house of 4 guys. And we saw these kids buying candy, and so we followed them down Swarthmore, figured they were going to a scout meeting. I guess today we'd probably be arrested. But anyhow, we followed them in, and I might still be there, but for the fact that the scoutmaster said, here's 2 Eagle Scouts, and not only that, we knew how to teach signaling Morse code, which most scoutmasters never got straight, and it was required, and it was a big stumbling block. We told him we could do all these wonderful things. He said, well, he was pretty full, had lots of help, but there was a troop on, this was Wednesday, there was a troop on Tuesday night that was kind of new and needed help. And we felt kind of rebuffed. We felt sort of discounted, kind of rejected. And we went home and debated whether we should go. So we went home to Riverside that weekend. We got all our uniforms out, found the ones with the most stuff on them, and put them on and went the next Tuesday night. Well, the guy didn't have a uniform. And
oh, my gosh.
And they had 6 kids, and it was pretty bad. So he said, well, why don't you show us your stuff in front of all these boys? So we started leading pretty interesting games, and we tied pretty interesting knots, and we made them fall in and pay attention, and they thought we could come back.
Ah, nice. Well,
and I've been there ever since.
Yeah, I was going to say, so that's the troop.
That's right.
That's the troop. Troop 223. I will say something. So all 6 of those boys stayed. 5 of them became Eagle Scouts. And one of the kids that was there was 14 that became an Eagle Scout. So it's kind of hard to believe, but I have an 80-year-old Eagle Scout.
Wow.
That's so amazing. I love that.
I think most people would say that they're aware that scouting can provide training for great skills, to be sure, and that but there's also been some, and this is no surprise to you, there's been some negative stories in the news as well. I mean, any large organization is going to have, especially one that's been around for 100 plus years, is going to have their share of some things that are that need attention. So that's why I wanted to ask you about this, so that we can say if anybody has any concerns about scouting, because I think they're listening to our conversation and they know that, wow, this sounds positive, but what about? So what do you think about, from your perspective, just some of the honest concerns that our audience might have about some of the news stories they may have heard?
We were an organization at our peak of, say, 5 million youth. We had 1 million adults. We had molesters. We had probably people that you would identify now as pedophiles. We were like the YMCA, the youth groups in religious organizations. Nobody had any concept of, quote, youth protection. But the Boy Scouts of America were different in 2 ways. First thing is, we carefully kept a record of every single assertion, claim, allegation. And if it came to anything, then we kept a file of these people so they could never be scout leaders again. And if anybody asked us, referenced us, like the YMCA or any religious group or anybody said, do you know about this guy? It was all men. We could look in our database and tell you. And nobody else kept databases. So when the lawyers finally got around to us, they found our databases. And that's why 600 lawsuits originated in Portland, for instance. However, the other side of the story is that 20 years ago, now a little over 20 years ago, we developed what is being recognized as the finest youth protection system in the world. It's the model for everybody else's. I take a test, I take a video, about 45 minutes every year. Then I have to take a test online, or I can go to a training course. I take a test. The results of that test demonstrate whether I have learned all the principles of youth protection. The results of that test go to the National Council, the local council, and my sponsor. Every troop is sponsored by a community organization. Our troop is sponsored by St. Matthew's Episcopal Church. So it goes to those 3 organizations to demonstrate, prove, and certify that I understand the principles of youth protection. and then every one of us is out there practicing them. Youth protection can almost be illustrated in kind of one sentence. There will always be 2 adults present. Mm-hmm. There's one exception, and that's when you're driving kids. Then you have to have 2 kids present. For example, this will show you how detailed it is. If I'm driving 2 kids home, if one of them is my son, then I drop the last kid off before I drop off my son. If 2 and I don't have sons in scouting anymore, so if I drive kids, the last 2 kids get dropped off at one of their houses, and one of their parents has to come pick them up. I can't take them home.
Troop 223 is really unique. I mean, I think it's a very well-run troop. I just thought maybe you should highlight some of those things, because we've had just some discussions, because other things people run up against when they're deciding on the Scouts is, they haven't had a good policy towards homosexuals, and they haven't had, certain things like that, like they're not inclusive. And can you just address that, especially for Troop 223?
Well, every troop, fortunately or unfortunately, is pretty much a mirror of its scout leader, its scoutmaster. We've kind of known that for years. Troops take on a little personality. It's not unlike the rabbi, or perhaps the priest or the rector, or maybe the CEO. Mm-hmm. And I just didn't feel right about this discrimination thing. And I happen to be an Episcopalian, and we've been a very inclusive denomination for years and years and years. We admitted gays, I don't know how many years ago. We ordained the first woman a priest. It was done by my wife's cousin illegally in Pennsylvania. And then we elected probably one of the first presiding bishops of any denomination, a female. But we accepted gays because they were God's children too. And we had an incredible rector at St. Matthew's, David Walton Miller. And David came to me and he said, I just don't think we can sponsor a scout troop if we can't be inclusive. And I said, well, I'd like to be inclusive. Why don't we just be inclusive? We signed a contract with our local council saying we were going to be inclusive. To us, it was a no-brainer. I'm afraid I'd have to say that the Boy Scouts of America probably took that step of admitting gays because it was illogical to continue. They were spending $20 million a year on lawyers. They were having a terrible fight. I believe it was New York. And one of the most courageous and incredible national leaders of the Boy Scouts of America, Robert Gates, our former Secretary of Defense, security advisor to 9 presidents, the man who faced Khrushchev down, the man who's met with Putin, one of the greatest Americans in history, president of the Boy Scouts of America. And he just went to the meeting and said, men and women, National Council, it's time to stop this nonsense. And we did. And I just think it was just like admitting young women. It's just the simplest, easiest, most natural thing anybody should have ever done. Mm. We just didn't do it. Should have done it 50 years earlier.
I have this is wonderful, and obviously the leadership you're showing in this troop is having
extraordinary,
crazy,
amazing.
Right. I wanted to ask you, for our audience, because not everybody lives in the Pacific Palisades, not everybody can join your troop. With anyone looking for a troop for their children, do you have any sort of guidelines you can give our audience?
I think the first thing you have to ask is the Scoutmaster trained? How long's the man or woman been there? And I think the second thing you have to ask is how many assistants has the person recruited? Because if they can't delegate leadership to other adults, how can you ever expect them to delegate it to kids? Mm-hmm. But then the single most important criteria, go to the meeting, go to a campout, that's where the real action is, and see if the kids are running it. If they're not, your son's never going to learn to be a leader. Why join? Go do your sports instead.
Wow, that's really helpful.
Your son or daughter.
Sorry, absolutely.
I'm
Thank
just
you.
helping out.
Well, after 60,
I don't know how you keep it
68
straight.
years of
Talking about boys.
Well, right? I keep trying.
You're doing great.
There are a number of other criteria, but if you just take those, there's the little things. Is everybody wearing the uniform? Our uniform is the way of bonding and being on a team. you never saw the New York Yankees take the field and 3 guys were wearing Levi's.
Right.
So
Right.
what's to talk about?
Yeah.
But more than that, it's pride. I'm proud of it. And yeah, sometimes our scouts are a little embarrassed to be different if there are only 1 or 2 of them. But you ought to see us hit New York City, 400 scouts going to a national jamboree in uniform. That's when we talked about boys. You do give them a little speech about ladies like a man in uniform. And it works. Oh, yeah, we had lots of proof of that. But again, it's these little things that make a difference when you go. And so don't just join. And you always want to have a friend of your son or daughter with you, at least 2. We love it when 3, 4, or 5 join. They're a little cohort. They're friends already. They're more comfortable. And so that's another important thing. If you went online, you've got this Scout Professional, you found some names of troops, you went and looked at them, they look pretty good. Let's see if we can get 2 or 3 or 4 together. And I think last of all, you do want to ask them what they've accomplished. What do they do? You want to make sure they're going to a long-term camp every summer. You got to make sure they're doing some high adventure. This is what keeps kids in, and there is no single better way to create a self-confident, self-reliant, proud kid than to take them on a long-term backpack trip.
Now you had mentioned results, which I think is no stranger to what you have done. How many? Because you had said that you tell the parents the importance of being an Eagle Scout. How many Eagle Scouts has this troop produced?
804 to date, and of course it's going on right now, and we have a present group of 26 that will become Eagles this summer and fall. And it isn't a matter of how many. It's the fact that each one of them is qualified. Our Eagles are a little overqualified. We're a little immodest about this, but every one of our Eagles has attended 4 summer camps, and the last 2 of those, it wasn't about earning merit badges or kayaking or canoeing or learning how to shoot a rifle safely or a shotgun. It was about leading others. That's what they emphasized.
You are a Scoutmaster who has eagled more Scouts than any other in the United States. Is that true?
Any other Scoutmaster. There are other troops that have more Eagles. We began in 1952. There are troops that date to 1910. So there are other troops with more Eagles, and there are probably a couple that may have more Eagles each year. But Scoutmasters don't stay quite as long.
Wow.
And here you are. So you are that. You have that amazing honor to.
Thank you.
And this service that you've given to so many kids. And now you'll be extending that to a group of young women one of which is my daughter. So we're incredibly grateful for that. Okay, in a 2014 speech that you gave to the Eagle Scouts, you said the following: first, remember to be thankful. It will empower you and help you set aside the small stuff. Second, be opportunistic. The world is full of opportunities, and it's fun to be a leader. And third, remember, when the going gets tough, there's an indefatigable force within you that will take you anywhere you want to go. What does indefatigable mean, not only in the context of scouting, but in life?
It's a force that can never experience fatigue. It's a force that can't wear out. It's a force that is so strong that it's always there at its peak for you. And this isn't something new. Probably every great leader in the history of the world said it. Just take one of the greatest leaders that ever walked the earth, Jesus Christ. That was his basic message. All of you have all the strength you need. You just have to understand. You dig down in the forces within you. And the amazing thing is when you call upon it, it's there. Yeah. I don't know what it is. You can't see it. You can't really define it. You can kind of feel it. But it's there. It's like this interview today. I said to myself, the force is in you. There's some other words that I remember using.
What a great word.
About the force. Invisible, because you can't see
force.
it. Yeah. And incredible, probably. And I don't know, but indefatigable was obviously the winner.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's our new band name.
Indefatigable.
Well, I still get emails from all these guys telling me what they're doing and what they're up to. And one of the things a lot of them sign their name, Charlie Brown, the indefatigable Scoutmaster or something like that.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's
it's stuck.
great.
I'm going to put,
That's very cool.
Okay.
Okay.
You're inspiring us.
It's something that is so strong that no matter how often you call on it or no matter what challenge you throw at it, when you're scared, what you're scared of is what's going to happen, all those what ifs. Mm-hmm. And what the Force does is tell you no matter what if, you're going to do okay. That's the difference.
You need to trust.
This is a big problem going on right now. Do we have more depression in our society than ever?
Anxiety.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anxiety is one thing, but depression is the end result and the really dangerous thing. And depression is when people don't know how to respond to what if. I just read the best article I ever read on what to do if you're worried, if you're a little panicky, if you're experiencing more downs than ups. Okay, we're going to call it depression. It was really simple. Focus on 5 good things that are happening, and then take yourself through a vision and an experience of enjoying one of those 5 things. And it makes you stop saying, what if?
Yeah.
And, I found myself doing a whole bunch of what ifs in the morning when I woke up.
Because you're like, what if this bad thing
reckon
happens?
every morning.
Yeah.
And so now I try this other direction, and it works. And we do have to play healthy mind games on ourselves. So the thankful thing, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've talked about this too, that privately, that we're all about focus. I mean, you were even mentioning, like, when you were younger, there weren't as many distractions, right? So you could actually focus on scouting. But we think that in a world where there's so many distractions, it's even more important to focus on the good, which is what we challenge each other to do. But would you say that's part of what you're saying?
Sure, you're focusing on the good instead of the bad. You're a positive person. You're a half full glass person. I meet some of these people and I just can't believe them. Problem for lawyers is that we go to school for 3 years and then our entire life we're told to figure out what can go wrong. Think about it. You go to some lawyer and ask him to write a contract. 3/4 of it is what we're going to do when this goes wrong and when that goes wrong. If nothing else, we're going to go to arbitration. That last clause.
You're looking for everything that could go wrong.
Well, that's our job.
You're protecting your clients. So
that's
you
our
have
job.
to think ahead.
See, I draft
as to
wills.
what could go wrong.
I draft wills and trusts. So the very first thing you have to say is, I leave it all to my kids. What if one of them isn't there? Well, I leave it to their kids. Well, what if they're not there? Well, I leave it back to my other kids.
That's a lot.
See what I mean?
In mind, yes.
So
well, when you think about training yourself to think of all the negatives, then when your wife says, well, you just told me everything wrong with a movie we're looking at, what about what's good about it? Well, you have to train yourself, I think, to look at all the positive in life. I have a really hard time personally. Some people just do it naturally. I envy them. They just go through life that way. I envy them.
I do too. It takes effort. That's why I'm saying it is.
Yeah.
It takes effort.
Well, it takes effort to do anything right. And to live right is to take the effort to look at the positive. Well, here we contact 20, 25, 30,000 young people a year. We influence their lives. We have...
Wait, could you say those numbers again?
The council, the geographic council, so LA Airport out through Beverly Hills, all of Antelope Valley over to Ventura. So we influence 30,000 kids a year who are touching our programs. 11,000 are members. Then there's some in and outs, so probably 13, 14, and produces 250 Eagle Scouts a year. We have 4,000 registered leaders trained and with youth protection. And every board member has to take it. Every committee member, anybody anywhere touching us has to take it, for instance. But when you talk about that kind of a group, and then we have to fund 13 professionals, full-time people, to make all this thing work, to guide them, to recruit them, to keep it going. Then there's a staff of 30 bookkeepers, accountants, membership recorders, even more that are running our camps. We have 3 permanent camps. Well, when you're doing all that, that's another job. I just choose to do both. Most people don't, but I can't seem to quit. My job is to raise all the money for that thing.
you've got that indefatigable force within you that allows you to do all these extra things, I think.
Well, and the other thing is that Irving T. Olson said, a job once begun is a job half done. So all you got to do is start.
That's such a great phrase. Just in case we've got something for you. For the man who has every conceivable award, Kat thought of one more.
Oh,
Here's
thank
a little
you.
award for you.
Oh, thank you so much.
And we even have some of those
candy bars.
Scout cookies on the back.
So until the Boy Scouts learn how to bake, now you got some cookies.
So
right?
I'll take them on a trip tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
And
We're going to a camp out.
And every time a kid does something, well, I'll give him a cookie. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to take this cup with me on the camp out tomorrow.
Awesome.
Fabulous.
Thank you so much.
We love you. Thank you so much.
All right.
Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
It's been fun.
Thank you.
And indefatigable.
Indefatigable.
I love that word.
I'm on that word now.
I want that on my T-shirt.
Bring on the night in Wild Town, fire and light shining down. We know the world won't wait for long. We're free and on. Yeah, bring it on, bring it on.
Hey, so that's our podcast. We want to thank Mike Lanning, Scoutmaster of Troop 223, for being prepared. He's the ultimate scout and amazing Scoutmaster, and we're so grateful for all that he does for that organization and his community. And if you've enjoyed today's podcast and you think it would be helpful for someone you know, be a crazy, amazing human and tell them about us.
A couple of quick reminders. We definitely want to hear from you and stay connected. So make sure and sign up for our newsletter by sending us an email at crazyamazinghumans@gmail.com. That's crazyamazinghumans, all one word, @gmail.com. We'd also love to hear your comments, questions, and suggestions.
In fact, if you know about any crazy, amazing humans that are making a difference in the lives of people around them, please let us know. We just might highlight them in our next podcast.
Make sure to subscribe to the Crazy Amazing Humans podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. We've also videotaped every episode, so you can check us out on the Crazy Amazing Humans YouTube channel.
And most of all, we want to make sure to thank you for being with us today. Remember that every little kindness has the potential to create crazy, amazing human experiences, one person at a time.
So this week, we want to encourage you to find one thing that you can do to extend kindness and love in the world. I'm Jefferson Denham.
And I'm Katrina Carlson. See you next time right here on the Crazy Amazing Humans podcast.
Something crazy, crazy